Hey everybody, this is George Brasher with Shakedown of Thunder Sports, and you're about to watch the two Irish brothers. Go Irish.
Going deep for Smith. Irv Smith. What a run by Smith. Look at that. Touchdown. Oh, my.
All right, Ben. So now let's talk about the new playoff format, the 5+7 format. First off, you weren't here on Friday, so what are your thoughts?
I don't hate it. Obviously, I think you should be rewarded if you win your championship. I think that also should be, though, depending on year. I mean, like, how tough was your schedule? You know what I'm saying? This year, Michigan had a pretty easy schedule. And then they played Iowa in the Big Ten championship game. I mean, granted, you could have said the actual Big Ten championship game was them and Ohio State. But that's the example I give you, But if you win your conference championship, there should be something given to you reward-wise. Like, I get that. The only thing I don't like is the whole seeding process. I don't like that a potential number one team couldn't have. Well, let me take that back. I don't like that a potential top 5 team could have a potential 1 through 4 seed if they're not in a Power 5 conference or Power 4, whatever you want to say, and or a conference champion. Because, like, let's remember, like, Boise State, and when they were, when they went and beat Oklahoma in the Fiesta Bowl, undefeated, and let's remember, like, TCU, who was Mountain West team at that time, Mountain West champions, and then went and beat Wisconsin in the Rose Bowl. Like, they would not get a 1 through 4 seed, right? I mean, isn't that how we're saying this is? So, or you could have 2 of them. You could have Boise State, who's undefeated that season, and TCU, who's undefeated that season, and one of them gets that 1 through 4 seed, and the other doesn't. And, like, one of them's the number 1 team in the nation, and they don't have a 1 through 4 seed. Like, that's ridiculous, in my opinion. So that's the only thing I don't like.
But here's
I think the seeding should go. If you are the number 1 team in the country coming into the playoffs out of your championship game, or if you're an independent like Notre Dame, or you're a group of 5 school, okay, and you're number 1 in the country, you should have the number 1 seed. And then down. So whoever the number 2 is should be the number 2 seed and on.
But as I said, of course, Ben, and you know this as well as I do, that as Notre Dame fans, we knew that with this format.
Right, and we knew this, yeah. But my thing is, I see it not just from a Notre Dame perspective. I see other teams that, have a shot at making the playoffs, or they could be a team, like I said, who is a Boise State on one of them crazy years where they're really, really good and they're beating everybody, and then what? They get the short end of the stick because they're not in the Big Ten or the SEC or the AC. Like, in my opinion, that's not right.
But at the same time, though, you have the top 4, the top 4 conference champions get the bye, right? As we established, there's nothing that says that. There's nothing that says that Power 5, that team from the Power 5, couldn't be ranked higher than, say, the Big 12 or the ACC conference champion. Because I think that's how its format is. It's just the top 5, the top 4 conference champions get the bye. So you could still have a team from, say, I don't know, the American. They can finish. They can finish higher than the ACC conference champion. Well, they would get that first round bye.
But and let me give you.
Is that how it goes?
I would have to look further into it. But see, my worry, here's my concern. Like, this is not even a Notre Dame thing. This is not like I want Notre Dame to get a bye. This is like, I want it to be fair for everybody involved. And that is that, say that you have a weak conference champion. Okay, so, like, let's say that Iowa's the conference champion of the Big Ten. Let's say that. Okay. Would it be right for a weak Iowa team who just happened to win the Big Ten this year get a first round bye over a team that had multiple wins over top 25 teams or even top 5 or top 10 teams that wasn't a conference champion because they're not in a group or a Power 5 conference?
No, it wouldn't be right.
And that's what's going to happen, though. And that's my issue. That's my worry. Because we know, I mean, will it happen a lot? Probably not. Probably not. And I get that. But there's going to be those rare years where you see an undefeated UCF, you see an undefeated Boise State, you see, an undefeated TCU when they were in the Mountain West. You see that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, let's not forget the year that Utah went undefeated and beat Alabama in the Sugar Bowl. They didn't go to the national championship, and by all means, they probably should have, and they probably would have won it, judging by the beatdown that they gave Alabama in the Sugar Bowl in Alabama's backyard. That is New Orleans.
Right.
That's why we're going to these playoff formats, to prevent things like that from happening. But now we're coming right back around to those things happening again.
Yeah, but here's the thing, though, Ben. Let's go back to that Iowa scenario. Okay, they win the Big Ten, and they obviously win the Big Ten there. That means they obviously go to the playoffs.
Right.
But that doesn't necessarily – if I'm thinking of the format correctly, the way that I'm thinking of it, that doesn't mean they'd necessarily get a first-round bye. They would be in the playoffs, but they wouldn't necessarily get a first-round bye because it depends on where those other 4 conferences are, the other Power 4 conferences and the Group of 5 conference. Because that group, in a scenario like that Group of 5 conference could easily be ranked higher than them. So it's because I think of the NCAA basketball tournament. You have the regular season conference championship, but then you have the conference tournament where the winner of the tournament gets an automatic bid. But in this case, it's like Yep. I just clarified my point. Okay, I just figured it out. Yes, awarding automatic bids to the 5 highest ranked conference champions with 7 at-large bids. Okay, so then that wouldn't happen. Okay, so I take back everything I just said for the last. It's good talk, though. It's good talk. We had.
Goodness gracious! I should have had that up in front of me.
Right.
But I mean, yes,
format correctly. We're discussing this.
So yeah, it's interesting. It's really interesting, and what I like the most though is I like that it expanded. I mean, it expanded to 12 teams. I mean. And I know that some people are like, oh, well, it's just going to breed mediocrity. And it's, it's teams like Alabama are still just going to thrive. And I disagree, man. I really disagree. I think with the NIL, and I think the NIL is really leveling the playing field. I think a lot of guys that would have originally gone to Alabama now get that NIL deal with a Colorado or an Arizona or even a USC, and now all of a sudden you see the field start to get a little more even, if you will. And now that you have playoffs where a team just has to really make it as opposed to have to be perfect and all that, that's when you can get an upset brewing. Yeah. And that's when a team like Georgia, who's been undefeated for 2 straight seasons, all of a sudden goes up against this little school that everybody thinks they're going to roll over, and then that little school hits them in the mouth. I mean, so I don't know. It's going to be really interesting. It's going to be really, really interesting, and I can't wait to see who makes the playoffs this year. I mean, obviously we have the front runners. Obviously Georgia,
right, is pretty much a lock. I would say probably Ohio State or Michigan, depending on who wins that matchup. Right. Oregon's probably a pretty good bet, since they returned just about everybody and their head coach and all that. Mm-hmm. But then there's other schools that you're like, oh man, they could be that school this year. They could be it. Notre Dame's one of them. Could Notre Dame make the playoffs? Could they not? We have lots of schools in Notre Dame's boat. So, Well, the bottom
It'll be
line,
interesting. It'll be really, really interesting to see what happens.
yes, this first year, it's going to be a lot of fun to see how this plays out. And just to be fair, listen, there's going to be pros and cons with any format.
Right. No, and there is. I mean, it's the same with NFL football right now. I mean, there's, I don't like that they reseed. I think that's stupid. I think it's
and that's the positive. That's the positive college football playoff, the 12-team format. They're not
so like, I mean, there's pros and cons to everything. I mean, yeah, I totally agree. Totally agree.
And the guys on, and we'll talk about this more as it affects Notre Dame in particular, but the guys on the show, Crane and Company, who I had actually been watching for a while, and I saw you posted one of their videos on Twitter talking specifically about Notre Dame, but I went back and watched the whole thing, and I wish I had the clip to play it, but I didn't think to download it. But that's one thing that I do like about the 12-man. There is no reseeding. It's the 4 teams that get the bye, they know who they're going to be playing.
Yeah.
One of 2 teams. So straightforward, no reseeding. That's a pro that I do like. And yeah, so I mean, this first season, we'll just have to see how it goes. I mean, this is the experimental year.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm excited nonetheless. Like, I think it'll be awesome. I think it's, it's totally past due for it to be happening. Like, every other level of college football has a playoff system like this. They have been, in my opinion, in the Stone Age, doing 4 teams, and then before that, 2 teams basically, and just going to the national title. Like, that was absolutely stupid in my opinion, but whatever.
Speaking of stupid, one thing I got to point out real quick that I think is really crazy and insane is we haven't played a single snap in the 12-man playoff era, and already they're talking about wanting to go to 14 teams. It's like, slow it the hell down.
Yeah. Well, you know what they're going off of right there. You know exactly why they're saying 14. Same reason they're talking about expanding the college basketball tournament. How many teams
are they looking to expand to in the basketball tournament?
I don't know. I'd have to go back and look, but I'm by the Jay Billis mindset in that. And if you haven't seen his comments, go look that up. That can be homework for everybody that's watched the video for this long. Go look at what Jay Billis just said about them potentially expanding the basketball tournament, and that's almost my exact thought, like word for word.
You can't let us get to participation trophy levels here. You can't.
So anyway, yeah. So yeah, I think it was awesome. I think exciting things on the horizon. I think there's a little bit less of a push now to be absolutely perfect in the season, which I think it is a step in the right direction. Because I mean, let's be honest, it's hard to go undefeated.
Yeah,
it's hard. I mean, I don't care what anybody says, and I know some Notre Dame fans will roll their eyes. It's hard to win games. It is, like, and it really is. Like, so anyway,